audiobook reading of 25 Neville Goddard Techniques. Use your imagination to manifest your desires. Published in 1971. Chapter 1. Introduction. Neville Goddard opened our eyes to the deep and powerful secrets of our mind. What we see on the outside in our daily affairs and circumstances is simply our imagination and thoughts pushed out. Neville revealed that the characters or personalities from the Bible are allegorical and represent facets of our imagination. Through Neville's teachings, we learn that the main character of the Bible is our own wonderful human imagination. All the things you see in your world are simply the manifestations from your inner mind or your imagination. Neville taught us that by changing what we are imagining, we can change our world. Remember that these techniques can be, and often are blended together. Why is that? They can be blended together because these techniques are all attempting to do essentially the same thing, namely, change what is happening within your almighty, beautiful imagination. You will notice many similarities in the techniques as you read. The main thing to take away from these techniques is that you don't need to use all of them. Find the ones that work best for you and use them. The time will come when a whole new world will open up to you. Finally, there are 3 things you need to know before starting. 1. Find a private place. Before engaging in any manifesting technique, you must have a private place where you can go and it should be somewhere that you can close your eyes, relax, and commune within yourself for several minutes without fear of anyone seeing or hearing you. Engaging in these techniques is a deeply personal and serious matter. The place where you practice them should be treated as such. The Bible speaks of it as entering your closet. Examples of places: in bed at night, in your office at work, in your car. Be creative. 2. Relax. Once you have found your private spot or your closet, it's time to let go of the outside world and enter into the inside world. Close your eyes, sit back, and allow yourself to really relax. Some ways to deeply relax are slow, deep, rhythmic breathing for a minute or 2. Visualize or imagine a beautiful, peaceful scene from nature. Lay back in an armchair, lazy boy, or bed and allow all of your muscles to completely relax. Don't fall asleep. 3. Enter the state. Neville talks a lot about states. When he mentions the word state, he's talking about your emotional state. He's talking about your overall mood or what you are feeling. You will hear more than once that you are to enter into the state or the mood or the feeling of the wish fulfilled. These are all the same things. So here is the secret. Get into the state, the mood, or the feeling of your wish having been already fulfilled, and your desires will come true. Many blessings to you in your manifesting journey. Technique 1. Believe in imaginal acts as fact. Imaginal acts of facts. Imaginal acts of facts. Neville drove this point home over and over in his many lectures. What you imagine and feel to be true comes to pass. Here is a practical technique you can use to put this point to the test. Here is Neville's advice on how to use your own imagination to help a friend in need of a job, good health, or a mate. You simply represent him to yourself as being gainfully employed, or if he is unwell as being well, or he wants to be married, and he can't find the proper mate. In your mind's eye, you assume he has found the proper mate. Whatever it is that is the normal, natural request that is not in conflict with your own moral ethical code, and you create a state. This state, then you lift your individual into that state. But how do I do it? Imaginal acts of facts. Neville drove this point home over and over in his many lectures. What you imagine and feel to be true comes to pass. Here is a practical technique you can use to put this point to the test. Below is Neville's advice on how to help a friend in need of a job, good health, or a mate. I carry on a conversation mentally with that friend from the basis that he is in that state. He tells me how happy he is with his new job and how much he is making. I see him in my mind's eye radiant. Well then, myself persuaded that this imaginal act is a fact. Do I really believe in the reality of what I've done? Do I believe that imagining creates reality? I do. Well then, to the degree that I am self-persuaded, he becomes the embodiment of what I've imagined him to. Technique 2. One of Neville's more mysterious techniques is the breathing technique for manifesting your desires. Remember, Neville is vividly imagining his wish as already fulfilled as he is doing this breathing exercise. You should do the same. Now there's a definite technique to it, a simple technique. If I can share with you what I do and it works, I bring them into my mind's eye and I work myself up into an emotional state. It's like a peculiar rhythm. I breathe in and breathe out, and suddenly I reach a certain point, and then one deep inhalation, as though I'm setting it up in a time exposure before my own mind. I set it up, and then all of a sudden I have a deep inhalation, and every pore of my being explodes. And then I do nothing beyond that. Neville explains in further detail how to use this breathing technique. The idea is to focus on the rhythm of your breath, as you are vividly imagining your wish or desire already fulfilled. Work yourself up emotionally until you feel a sort of psychic release. Let me once more try to explain this simple technique. You will have to practice it and use your own rhythm. You can be at home listening to nice music. You can be simply relaxing with a drink. It doesn't matter what you're doing or where you are, but want to do it. Get into a lovely, quiet, relaxed frame. Wouldn't it be wonderful if she actually had it? If he had it? If they had it? Oh, so you know exactly what you want now. And then you imagine you are seeing them. You can see them in your mind's eye and see them vividly. And then breathe yourself into a rhythm. They're telling you that they have it. And you're getting yourself worked up emotionally because they're telling you that they have exactly what you know they want in this world. And then you reach a certain point and you explode. Something actually goes out of you. It's power. Neville finally explains the breathing technique in terms of a sort of psychic sexual act. You work yourself up into a certain emotional state and then suddenly you explode and you feel everything go out. And you cannot repeat it. There's no desire to repeat it. It was an actual psychic sexual act, but there's no physical act. There is no evidence of any physical act, but it's the same thrill that you would were it a physical act. Work yourself right up into that state and then let it go. And do not raise one finger to make it so any more than you would after impregnation. What can you do after pregnancy has taken place? Nothing. You leave it alone and let it take place in its own good time. Catch the mood technique. This is a technique from Neville Goddard's lecture entitled Catch the Mood, where he advises us to conceive of a state, a feeling or a mood, and dwell in that state or mood until it becomes a physical fact. He sheds light on the secret meaning of the words of Jesus from the book of John, chapter 14. In my Father's house are unnumbered mansions. Were it not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And when I go and prepare the place, I will return again and take you with me, that where I am, in that state prepared, you shall be also. So, I now take a state. I want to be known. I want to contribute to the world's good. I want also to live well, and I mean well. I want to feel secure, not only financially, but secure socially, that when I enter a room, I am not embarrassed, no matter who they are. They can have all the degrees in the world. They can come from all the great universities in the world and be honored by the world. But I want to stand in their presence and not feel little. I want to feel a man. I am not to bow my head in shame because of any restriction in my past. If I were born behind the 8 ball socially, financially, intellectually, it doesn't matter. I want to feel important. I want to feel great. I want to feel right. Deliberately create a mood or state of having what you wish. Well, in that mood or state until your wish is fulfilled. All right, what state would that be if it were true? I conceive a state that, if it were true, that would make all my wishes come true. I go into that state. Now, the first time I enter the state and view the world from it, it is wonderful, but I may never re-enter that state. Therefore, it is not my home. I want to make that state my perpetual home. So I automatically dwell in that state. And if I dwell in it so that automatically I am in that state, it becomes my dwelling place. So I will go and prepare a place for you. I am not talking to you. I am talking to myself. I will take you, Neville, born behind the 8 ball, born unknown, unwanted. Poor, everything that is simply behind the 8 ball, and I'm going to take you, Neville. Now that you have found me, the second man, the Lord from heaven, your own wonderful human imagination, now that you rouse me, I will go. Neville tells us that our moods are creative and the cause of our conditions. Always use your imagination masterfully as a participant, not an onlooker. In using your imagination to transform energy from the mental, emotional level to physical level, extend your senses, look and imagine that you are seeing what you want to see, that you are hearing what you want to hear, and touching what you want to touch. Become intensely aware of doing so. Give your imaginary state all the tones and feeling of reality. Keep on doing so until you arouse within yourself the mood of accomplishment and the feeling of relief. Moods are imaginal activities without which no creation is possible. Moods are not only the result of the conditions of our life, they are also the causes of those conditions. Technique 4. Neville's Climb a Ladder Technique. Neville assigned his students an exercise wherein they were to relax before going to bed and imagine themselves climbing a ladder. For 3 nights in a row, they were to slowly and vividly imagine climbing a ladder rung by rung and step by step, all before drifting off to sleep. Concurrently, they also were required to write down on several pieces of paper the statement, "I will not climb a ladder." These statements were to be placed everywhere that they would be seen, in their bedroom, on the mirror, in the wallet, everywhere. After 3 days, the exercise was to be discontinued. The results were amazing. Many of the students reported the strange experience of mysteriously being required to climb up a ladder in real life. For some it happened within days of doing the exercise, and for others it was a week or more. You can test this climb the ladder technique for the next 3 nights. Neville explained to them that the imaginal exercise of climbing a ladder could have been replaced with anything they desired to have happened to them. They could have imagined making $1 million, and it would have happened to them just the same as climbing the ladder. You too can use this famous Neville Goddard technique for your own benefit by lovingly imagining the thing you really want before going off to sleep at night. Neville says to feel yourself actually climbing it. The difference will be appreciated if you will now visualize yourself climbing a ladder. Then, with eyelids closed, imagine that a ladder is right in front of you and feel yourself actually climbing it. Technique 5. Congratulations technique. Neville says to hear your friends congratulating you in your imagination. Knowing exactly what you want, view the world from the premise that you have it. If the world remains the same, you haven't moved. Only when it can be seen after the change can you know you have moved. Now continue thinking from the new state, for motion can be detected only by a change of position relative to another object. A friend is a good frame of reference. Looking at his face, let him see you as he would if your desire were fulfilled. He would see you differently, would he not? If he is one who would congratulate you, accept his congratulations. Extend your hand mentally and feel the reality of his hand. Listen and hear the reality of his words of congratulations. Then have faith in your unseen reality, for if you do, no power can stop it from coming into your world. Listen to your friends congratulate you on the fulfillment of your goal before it happens. Have a goal. Your goal may be peace of mind, health, or marriage, you name it. Knowing your own wonderful human imagination is the one and only cause of your life. Conceive a scene which, if true, would imply the fulfillment of your goal. Do not allow yourself to observe the action, but put yourself in the center of the scene and allow your friends to congratulate you on your good fortune. Accept their congratulations without embarrassment. Enter into the spirit of the scene and remain there until it feels real, then drop it in confidence that the imaginal act was performed by God. Can you catch the feeling of being congratulated? It works. Do you know what you want? I will tell you a simple way to get it. Simply catch the feeling that you have it and sustain that feeling. Persist in acknowledging the joy of fulfillment. In your imagination, tell your friends your good news. Hear their congratulations, then allow him who heard your friends and felt your joy of fulfillment, bring it into your world, for he who can do all these things is within you as your own wonderful I amness, your imagination, your consciousness. There is great power in imagining someone congratulating you. Take a simple scene. Would someone congratulate you if they heard of your good fortune? Then allow them to do so. Accept their congratulations just as you would if they came to you in the flesh. Now remain faithful to that vision. If you need a more complex scene, Like two people discussing your success, eavesdrop on them. Listen to their words of praise or envy, then do not forget that vision. Conjured in your imagination. Carry it with you, knowing that what it implies will come to pass, for its potency is not in the scene itself, but what the scene implies. By Neville Goddard Technique 6. Construct an event technique. Construct a scene in your imagination, and it will come to life. Neville encourages us to create a scene of any simple event that would mean that our desire has come to pass. When you know exactly what you want, construct in your mind's eye a single, simple event which implies fulfillment of your desire, an event wherein self predominates. Instead of sitting back and looking at yourself as though you were on the screen, you be the actor in the drama. Construct a scene in your imagination, and it will come to life. Now, as we come to the vital part of the evening, the interval devoted to prayer, let me again clarify the technique. Know what you want, then construct a single event, an event which implies fulfillment of your wish. Restrict the event to a single act. For instance, if I single out as an event shaking a man's hand, then that is the only thing I do. I do not shake it, then light a cigarette and do 1,000 other things. I simply imagine that I am actually shaking hands and keep the act going over and over again until the imaginary act has all the feeling of reality. Neville shares his 3 steps to changing the future. You can try this today. The first step in changing the future is desire. That is, define your objective, know definitely what you want. Secondly, construct an event which you believe you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire, an event which implies fulfillment of your desire, something which will have the action of self-predominant. Thirdly, immobilize the physical body and induce a condition akin to sleep by imagining that you are sleepy. Lie on a bed or relax in a chair. Then, with eyelids closed and your attention focused on the action you intend to experience in imagination, mentally feel yourself right into the proposed action, imagining all the while that you are actually performing the action here and now. To seek control inner speech and conversations. Your inner speech mental conversations attract the equivalent on the outside. This technique of changing your inner conversation produces miraculous changes in your life once you realize the immense power behind your inner thoughts to mold and you'll be able to consciously use your imagination to transform and channel the immense creative energies of your inner speech from the mental emotional level to the physical level. I do not know what limits, if any, there are to such a process. What is your aim? Does your inner talking match it? It must, you know, if you would realize your aim, for as the prophet asks, can 2 walk together except they agree? The 2 that must agree are your inner conversation and the state desired. There is no limit to the thoughts that go unchecked within your mind. Neville teaches that it is a waste of time to try to manifest good things in our lives until we begin first by changing our mental conversations. When man discovers the creative power of inner talking, he will realize his function and his mission in life. Then he can act to a purpose. Without such knowledge, he acts unconsciously. Everything is a manifestation of the mental conversations that go on in us without our being aware of them. But as civilized beings, we must become aware of them and act with it. A man's mental conversations attract his life. As long as there is no change in his inner talking, the personal history of the man remains the same. To attempt to change the world before we change our inner talking is to struggle against the very nature of things. Do not neglect this technique. Talking to oneself is a habit everyone indulges in. We could no more stop talking to ourselves than we could stop eating and drinking. All that we can do is control the nature and the direction of our inner conversations. Most of us are totally unaware of the fact that our inner conversations are the causes of the circumstance of our life. Technique 8, and an assume technique. Neville stresses the secret power of assuming in many of his lectures. By assuming that something good has already happened, it literally brings it to pass in its own special way. Use this technique for amazing results. Take the idea that you want to embody and assume that you are already it. Lose yourself in feeling this assumption is solidly real. As you give it this sense of reality, you have given it the blessing which belongs to the objective world, and you do not have to aid its birth any more than you have to aid the birth of a child or a seed you plant in the ground. The seed you plant grows unaided by a man, for it contains within itself all the power and all the plans necessary for self-expression. Use this technique to literally assume yourself into health. Don't believe it. Try it and you will prove it for yourself. Assume the feeling of being healthy and see what happens. Let us say I want to be healthy. Pills will not do it. Diet or climate will not do it. I must become conscious of being healthy by assuming the feeling of being healthy. It does not matter if your assumption is false. Be mindful of your assumptions. Assume the feeling of your wish as fulfilled and it will harden into fact. Man, by assuming the feeling of his wish fulfilled, alters his future in harmony with his assumption. For assumptions, though false, if sustained, will harden into fact. Live in the feeling of your assumption. Assume the feeling of your wish as fulfilled and it will harden into fact. Know that your consciousness is the only reality. Then know what you want to be. Then assume the feeling of being that which you want to be and remain faithful to your assumption, living and acting on your conviction. Always make it fit that pattern. It does not matter if your assumption is false. Assume the feeling of your wish as fulfilled and it will harden into fact. Concentrate your attention upon the idea of identifying yourself with your ideal. Assume you're already that which you seek and your assumption, though false, if sustained, will harden into fact. If there is something tonight that you really want in this world, then experience in imagination what you would experience in the flesh, were you to realize your goal and deafen your ears, and blind your eyes to all that denies the reality of your assumption. Edge-drop technique. What if you could hear your friends talking about your incredible success? What would they say? Would your friends know of your success the day after it was achieved? Would they get together to discuss it? Make their gathering the scene from which you start. What would they say? Would some of them be jealous? Some happy for you, put them all together and eavesdrop on their conversation. Then believe in what you have heard. Persist and your success is assured. Hear people talking about you behind your back. They are saying great things. Imagine it, success. Take a simple scene. Would someone congratulate you if they heard of your good fortune? Then allow them to do so. Accept their congratulations, just as you would if they came to you in the flesh. Now remain faithful to that vision. If you need a more complex scene, like two people discussing your success, eavesdrop on them. Listen to their words of praise or envy, then do not forget that vision. Conjured in your imagination, carry it with you, knowing that what it implies will come to pass, for its potency is not in the scene itself, but what the scene implies. Use your imagination to eavesdrop and hear miraculous things. If your income had just been increased to, say, $30,000 a year from your present income of less than $10,000, how would you feel? How would your present circle of friends see you? Would they know it? Would they discuss it? Would they speak of the change in your life? Tell them, and then eavesdrop and hear your friends discuss you as one who is now making $30,000 a year. That's a motion in God, and that movement will produce result. Everything in this world is nothing more than the result of a movement in God, which is a motion in your wonderful imagination. The slightest imaginable act that is a change it, I don't mean just an act, for you can imagine things you don't believe. But if you imagine something you believe is a change, a thrill is sent through divine being. At that moment, you have actually entered another state and made it alive and real in your world. Technique 10. Enter the dream technique. Don't sit on the sidelines. Close your eyes and actually step into your desired states. Don't watch from the outside. Participate, see and feel and make it real. When you go into your imagination, make sure that you are actually performing the action, hearing the words, touching the object, or smelling the aroma in your self-conceived drama. What you do in your imagination is not merely a daydreaming which you see events in your mind's eye. You must enter the dream as if you were actually there. Can you feel the happiness of accomplishing your dream now? Try it. You must make there now and make there here. To make this perfectly clear, imagine that you would experience driving a new car after you have achieved your goal. In that case, you would not merely see a new car in your mind's eye. You must actually enter the dream. Feel yourself seated behind the steering wheel. Smell the newness of the interior. Feel yourself enjoying a comfortable ride. Feel the happiness that would be yours after accomplishing your dream. Enter the dream is another way of saying enter the state or the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You can sit quietly and enter a glorious dream. If it's shadowy, you are not in it. Persist until you enter it, and it will become the only reality. Live in the state of your fulfilled desire now, knowing that in a way unknown and unnoticed by you, it will erupt to become an objective fact. Can you feel the happiness of accomplishing your dream now? Try it. I urge you to dream nobly. Although your dream may seem impossible, invite it into your consciousness by feeling it is real. Wear this feeling as you would a suit of clothes and persist until the feeling takes on the tones of reality. Do that, and in a way no one knows, your desire will appear as an eruption of your continuous thought. Technique 11. Feel as you fall asleep technique. Imagine your wish fulfilled as you are drifting off to sleep. Neville has seen this technique work time and time again. For example, suppose I wanted a home, but I had no money, but I still know what I want. Without taking anything into consideration, I would make as lifelike a representation of the home that I would like, with all the things in it that I would want. And then, this night, as I would go to bed, I would in a drowsy, sleepy state, the state that borders upon sleep, I would imagine that I am actually in such a house that were I to step off the bed, I would step upon the floor of that house. Were I to leave this room, I would enter the room that is adjacent to my imagined room in that house. And while I am touching the furniture and feeling it to be solidly real, and while I am moving from one room to the other in my imaginary house, I would go to sound asleep in that state. And I know that in a way I could not consciously devise, I would realize my house. I have seen it work time and time again. This is a reminder, try not fall asleep right away. Stay awake long enough to direct your thoughts to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Drowsiness facilitates change because it favors attention without effort, but it must not be pushed to the state of sleep in which you no longer are able to control the movements of your attention, but a moderate degree of drowsiness in which you are still able to direct your thought. Use wisely the interval preceding sleep. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and go to sleep in this mood. At night, in a dimensionally larger world, when deep sleep falleth upon men, they see and play the parts that they will later on play on it. This technique can be challenging because you are trying to do it as you fall asleep. Don't give up. The benefits are huge. Control your moods as you go to sleep. I cannot find any better way to describe this technique than to call it a controlled waking dream. In a dream, you lose control, but try preceding your sleep with a complete controlled waking dream, entering into it as you do in dream, for in a dream you're always very dominant. You always play the part. You are always an actor in a dream and never the audience. When you have a controlled waking dream, you are an actor and you enter into the act of the controlled dream. But do not do it lightly, for you must then reenact it physically in a three-dimensional world. Lull yourself into the mood of being what you want to be. Relax and try not to use any effort. You change your future best when you're in control of your thoughts while in a state akin to sleep, for then effort is reduced to its minimum. Your attention seems to completely relax, and then you must practice holding your attention within that feeling without using force and without using effort. Lull yourself into the mood of being what you want to be by either experiencing in imagination what you would experience in reality were you already that which you want to be, or by repeating over and over again the phrase that implies you have already done what you want to do. A phrase such as, "Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful?" as though some wonderful thing had happened to you. Technique 12. Feel deeply technique. Can you smother yourself in feeling? Yes, you can. After smothering yourself in feeling, you have sent it on its way and cannot take it back. For prayer is nothing more than the subjective appropriation of an objective hope. Imagine by giving objective reality to your hope. Hair is the most objective thing on a man. Bring your hope so close that you can feel what it would be like if it were objective to you. Clothe yourself in that feeling, and you have clothed yourself in the reality of an ESO. The world will not immediately reflect your feeling, but you have set your desire in motion and cannot take it back. You have given a subjective state your blessing by giving it objective reality. Now it must fulfill its destiny so that you will be blessed in all that you are doing. Feeling is a powerful manifesting agent. Feel in depth. For what you feel deeply is more vital than what you think. Every day you can think about how wonderful it would be if, and never act. But if every day you would feel how wonderful it is now, it will become true. How would you feel if your desire were true? Catch the feeling and sustain it. Persist in your assumption, and in a way that no one knows, it will become true for you. Technique 13. Go to the end. Ask yourself what it would look like if your wish has already been fulfilled. Go to that place where it has already happened. You always go to the end, and the end is where you begin. We're always imagining ahead of our evidence, so go to the end and feel the end, and then dwell in that end, even though reason denies it and your senses deny it. You turn your back upon the doubters, that is your senses and what reason dictates. That's the hell or the devil or Satan in the world, that's the doubter. So you turn your back upon it, and then you walk as though things were as you want them to be, and living in that assumption, it slowly hardens into fact. Even though at the moment of the assumption it was denied by reason, an assumption, though false if persisted in, will harden into fact. So you learn to assume and learn to persist in the assumption, and it will come to pass. You must travel to the place in time where your wish has become true. Stay there and enjoy the feeling. That's the secret. In concentrating on your objective, the secret is to bring it here. You must make elsewhere here, and then now imagine that your objective is so close that you can feel it. Technique 14. Neville loved to quote William Blake. Here is one of Neville's favorite William Blake quotes. In your own bosom you bear your heaven and earth, and all you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. This mental journey into the desired state, with its subsequent feeling of reality, is all that is necessary to bring about its fulfillment. Your dimensionally greater self has ways that the lesser, or three-dimensional you, know not of. What you see on the outside has originated on the inside. To go within means to remain in the mental state or feeling of your wish fulfilled. All that we behold, though it appears without, it is within, in our imagination, and this whole vast world is simply a shadow. Remain in the mental state defined as your objective until it has the feeling of reality, and all the forces of heaven and earth will rush to aid its embodiment. Your greater self would influence the actions and words of all who can be used to aid the production of your fixed mental attitude. Indulge the feeling of satisfaction. Become mentally satisfied. Feast upon this feeling of being satisfied. Now deceive yourself into believing that your desire is externally real and give it your blessing by subjectively appropriating your objective hope. Who is the blind Isaac? You are, for you cannot see what you are asking for in your outer world. It's a hope, and you are blind to it. But when you clothe yourself in the feeling of its fulfillment, you are eating the feeling of satisfaction. Feast upon this feeling morning, noon, and night, and in a way you do not know your desire will become an objective reality in your world. Feeling satisfied means you've reached the state desired. You can satisfy self by appropriating the feeling that you are what you want to be. And this assumption, though false, that is, although reason and the senses deny it, if persisted in, will harden it to fact. By actually embodying that which you have assumed you are, you have the capacity to become completely satisfied. The feeling of being satisfied works miracles. What you want, be it health, wealth, or fame, is only a state. Think of the state as an egg containing everything necessary to externalize itself, but dead and must be penetrated and fertilized in order to break the shell and become what the world calls reality. Let me illustrate. As I stand here before you, I desire and will assume that I am in San Francisco, approximately 500 miles from here. I think I know this city well, but I don't have to know a city in order to assume a state. Putting myself in a familiar hotel lobby, I sit there and think of the world relative to the lobby in which I am now seated. While I am here, I feel its reality. I feel the satisfaction of being here, the very place I wanted to. The moment I feel the relief of being here, I have released the necessary sperm or energy into that dead state. Then I return to Los Angeles, but in that short period of time, I have gone and prepared the experience. Now I will move across a bridge of events which will compel me to go to San Francisco. I may have no desire to go, but I will. For I have prepared the place, occupied it, and although I returned to where I was and later may resist the going, I cannot stop it, for I have created it, and I will fulfill what I have done. Technique 16. I remember when technique. Neville wants you to create a feeling of remembering when you did not have what you desire. This statement implies to your imagination that you currently have that which you desire. Having nothing, you can become aware of being surrounded by wealth, and feeling wealthy you can say, I remember when I had nothing. Does that statement not imply that the state of poverty no longer exists for you? I remember when I was unknown. I remember when I couldn't sell a book. I remember when I couldn't sell anything. I wrote. Now you fill in the events, the desires, and the fulfillments. I remember when. In your imagination, look in the mirror to see you as you want to be. Tell your imaginary reflection, I remember when you looked so different. Look at yourself in the mirror and dare to see radiant health and happiness reflected back to you. Then say within yourself, I remember when my reflection was so different. Persist in seeing your new image reflected there, and you will resurrect that state. Your image, your concept of yourself or of another, is in your own wonderful human imagination, who is Christ, and Christ is the I remember when technique will take you across a series of events to your desired state. Let us use a weak, sick man as our fixed reference, and looking into our mind, see a strong, healthy man. I remember when he was weak and sick, but look at him now. Do that, and you have moved relative to the man. You will find yourself moving across a series of events which will lead you to the fulfillment of your desired state. How it will come about, I do not know. I only know it will unfold. Technique 17. Live the answer now technique. Forget about having what you want in the future. Have it now. Use your mind's eye to bring it here to this present moment. In concentrating on your objective, the secret is to bring it here. You must make elsewhere here, and then now imagine that your objective is so close that you can feel it. Suppose at this very moment I want a piano here in this room. To see a piano in my mind's eye existing elsewhere does not do it. But to visualize it in this room as though it were here, and to put my mental hand upon the piano and to feel it solidly real, is to take that subjective state personified as my second son Jacob and bring it so close that I... Can you make elsewhere here and then now? Try it. With your eyes closed and your physical body immobilized, induce a state akin to sleep and enter into the action as though you were an actor playing the part. Experience in imagination what you would experience in the flesh were you now in possession of your objective. Make elsewhere here and then now. And the greater you, using a larger focus, will use all means and call them good, which tend toward the production of that which you have assumed. Technique 18. Order then wait technique. Neville is always reminding us to wait. Let the technique work, but don't forget the last part of all techniques is to let your imagination work out the details. Wait and watch it work. It's magic. How to believe when reason denies it, when my senses deny it? Well, entering into the image is the most delightful thing in the world. You can try it tonight when we go into the silence. Try it in the simplest little way, putting yourself elsewhere by making elsewheres here, making there, here and then now. Well then, wait. The minute you do it, and open your eyes, in the twinkle of an eye you're back here and you will say to yourself, I didn't do anything. I just did a simple little thing in my imagination. How on earth could that produce the result when I've just assumed that I've done it? Well, wait and see if a little bridge of incidents does not quickly appear, compelling you to walk across that bridge of incidents towards the fulfillment of what you have done. Waiting is exercising your faith in the imaginal activity you have engaged in. You may desire something you think you cannot afford, or you don't have the time or the know-how to enjoy it. Hearing that imagination creates reality, you can imagine you have it. But to imagine is not enough. You must have faith enough in your imaginal act to believe in its reality. When you imagine you are the person you want to be, you must firmly believe you already are it. Then wait in faith for your assumption to appear in your world, for that imaginal act has its own appointed end. It will ripen and flower. If it seems long to you, wait, for it is sure and will not be late. Let your miracle ripen in its own time. Wait, it will not be late. Take some section of your life that seems beyond redemption and rearrange it in your mind's eye. Make it as you would like it to be. Persuade yourself of its truth and wait, because its fulfillment has its own appointed hour. It ripens, it will flower. If it be long, then wait, for it is sure and it will not be late. It will come into your objective world to bear witness to the reality of your assumption. Then you, too, will know that the world is a dream and you are its dreamer. Technique 19. Order your conversations or write. The words you say to yourself and to others have unimaginable power. Use this technique of only engaging in conversations that focus on your wishes fulfilled. The minute you begin to discipline your mind by observing your thoughts and watching your thoughts throughout the day, you become the policeman of your thought. Refuse to enter into conversations that are unlovely. Refuse to listen attentively to anything that tears. Talking to oneself is a habit everyone indulges in. We could no more stop talking to ourselves than we could stop eating and drinking. All that we can do is control the nature and the direction of our inner conversations. Most of us are totally unaware of the fact that our inner conversations are the causes of the circumstance of our life. Your conversations are more powerful than one might imagine. Watch your conversations carefully. Are they from premises of fulfilled ideas? If they're not, go back and make them actually correspond to the ideal you want to embody in this world. As the operant power of your imagination, you can tell where you are going and what you are doing by watching. If certain events in your past are unlovely and you remember them, you are ordering their experience. But if you turn your back on the past by forgetting what lies behind and stretch forward to what lies ahead, you will order your conversations aright and become what you behold. Technique 20. Persistent assumption technique. Assume your way to success. Feast on the idea, become identified with the idea as though you were already that embodied state. Walk in the assumption that you are what you want to be. If you feast on that and remain faithful to that mental diet, you will crystallize it. You will become it in this world. Take the idea that you want to embody and assume that you are already it. Lose yourself in feeling this assumption is solidly real. As you give it this sense of reality, you have given it the blessing which belongs to the objective world, and you do not have to aid its birth any more than you have to aid the birth of a child or a seed you plant in the ground. Your inner assumption is more powerful than what you see on the outside. Walk through this door tonight in the assumption that you are the man or woman you want to be. It doesn't make any difference if the outside denies it. You have seen the expression on the faces of your friends and heard their congratulations on the inside, with faith. Now carry this feeling into the deep and persevere. Conjure a living mirror of friends and acquaintances who have heard your good news and accepted it as permanent. See your face reflected in theirs. If they love you, you will see empathy. They will be rejoicing because of your good fortune. Now persevere in that awareness and do not forget what you have seen in your living mirror. Technique 21. Prayer technique. Neville states the secret of prayer quite simply. Don't look at the things you would like to change. Move in your imagination to the place you would be after the change took place. The technique of prayer is mastering your inner motion. If you are seeing things you would like to change, move in your imagination to the position you would occupy after the change took place. The stories of the Bible concern themselves exclusively with the power of imagination. They are really dramatizations of the technique of prayer. For prayer is the secret of changing the future. Neville states the secret of prayer quite simply. You grant your own wishes or prayers. A prayer granted implies that something is done in consequence of the prayer, which otherwise would not. Therefore, man is the spring of action, the directing mind, and the one who grants the prayer. Effective prayer is thinking from rather than thinking of. If you are still desiring, stop it right now. Ask yourself what it would be like were your desire a reality. How would you feel if you were already the one you would like to be? The moment you catch that mood, you are thinking from it. And the great secret of prayer is thinking from rather than thinking of. Anchored here, you know where you live, your bank balance, job, creditors, friends, and loved ones, as you are thinking from this state. But you can move to another state and give it the same sense of reality when you find and practice the great secret of prayer. Technique 22. pruning shears of revision, you can revise your life. This art of revision can be used in any department of your life. Take the matter of health. Suppose you were ill. Bring before your mind's eye the image of a friend. Put upon that face an expression which implies that he or she sees in you that which you want the whole world to. Just imagine he is saying to you that he has never seen you look better, and you reply, "I have never felt better." This technique is very mysterious. Neville teaches us that we can go back and revise with our imagination that happened in the past in order to change our present future. If, for instance, you had gone to an interview for a job you truly wanted but later learned that someone else was hired, you can revise that news to make it conform to what you wish you had heard. If you react by feeling depressed or assume any other negative attitude, you will then experience the same type of rejection in the future. Your reactions, whether positive or negative, are creative of future circumstances. In your imagination, you can hear words congratulating you on getting a wonderful new job. That imaginal act now goes forward, and you will encounter this pleasant experience in the future. We can take something that happened that we do not like and revise it to conform to our wishes. Suppose your foot was injured. Then do thus. Construct mentally a drama which implies that you are walking, that you are doing all the things that you would do if the foot was normal, and do it over and over and over until it takes on the tones of reality. Whenever you do in your imagination that which you would like to do in the outer world, that you would do in the outer world, the one requisite is to arouse your attention in a way and to such intensity that you become wholly absorbed in the revised action. You will experience an expansion and refinement of the senses by this imaginative exercise and, eventually, achieve vision in the inner world. Technique 23. See and hear your desire. Neville is always stressing the importance of seeing and hearing in his techniques. Make sure to bring your imagination to life with sight and sound. How would I send my word to help a friend? I would imagine that I am hearing his voice, that he is physically present, that my hand is on him. I would then congratulate him on his good fortune, tell him that I have never seen him look better. I would listen as though I heard him. I would imagine that he is telling me he has never felt better, he has never been happier. And I would know that in this loving, knowing communion with another, a communion populous with loving thoughts and feelings, that my word was sent, and it shall not return unto me void, but it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Neville states it quite plainly here. Read it a couple of times. Therefore, what we desire to see and hear without, we must see and hear within. For the whole manifested world goes to show us what use we have made of the word. Technique 24. Thank you technique. Be truly thankful for that fulfillment of your desire and see what happens. A most effective way to embody a desire is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and then, in a relaxed and drowsy state, repeat over and over again like a lullaby any short phrase which implies fulfillment of your desire. Thank you, as though you addressed a higher power for having given you that which you desired. My favorite technique because it feels so good to say thank you over and over. Try it and see. Reduce the idea, condense it to a single, simple phrase like, "Isn't it wonderful?" or "Thank you," or "It's done," or "It's finished." Or if I felt thankful because I thought someone was instrumental in bringing my desire to pass, I could say thank you and repeat it with feeling over and over again like a lullaby until my mind was dominated by the single sensation of thankfulness. Technique 25. Telephone technique. Don't listen to the bad news that someone might tell you over the telephone. Hear them telling you something that confirms your deepest wish or desire. Are you accepting as facts the headlines you see in the paper, the telephone call you just received, the morning's mail or the news on TV which suggest unlovely, horrible things to you? A friend calls and pouring out all the bilge in the world tells you how bad things are and how they are destined to get worse. As you listen, their woes enter and are assumed by you. Now, if you understand this law that imagining creates reality, you should, like a computer, choose what you are going to allow to enter. And when the conversation is finished and your friend's voice is still fresh and clear in your ear, hear her changed words, the changed tone of her voice, and feel the joy emitted there. Imagine picking up the phone and hearing the news that you are hoping to hear. If the morning's mail brings bad news, don't call the person and tell him he shouldn't have written the letter, but revise it. Change the letter completely. When you answer the telephone, test yourself again and hear only what you want to hear. My technique is simple. Sitting in my chair, I quietly listen for the phone to ring, answer it in my imagination, and hear the orders I desire to create, and they come. Bonus Technique 26. Test yourself. Final note. This is not so much a technique as it is a challenge. You will not know that these techniques work until you prove it for yourself. So prove it for yourself. Take my challenge and put this philosophy to the test. If it does not work, you should not use it as a comforter. If it is not true, you must completely discard it. I know it is true. You will not know it until you try either to prove or disprove it.